You know, you mentioned that particular video, and we've got it, and I want to show our audience this because I just thought when I saw that Keir Starmer looked like he had the personality of a doormat, quite frankly, when he made this very awkward, pre-prepared statement to world leaders on the Ukraine war at the Kiev conference. Let's watch it now.
I have a very simple, clear message today. The UK is with you today and every day.
Gosh, Darren, get the guy a teleprompter. He can't even read a basic sentence to world leaders without awkwardly looking up and down from his notes. I mean, what an embarrassment he is on the world stage.
Yeah, I have a very clear message. Well, it's not very clear, actually, Keir, I must say. You know, this is a man who actually has a speech coach. He actually is accused of breaking lockdown rules to actually meet with his speech coach back in the days when we had those horrible lockdowns. So actually, it wasn't worth breaking the rules for in the end, if indeed he did. Money well spent? I think not, because actually these world leaders might look to Britain for some form of Churchillian resolve. Well, actually, they got a sort of malfunctioning sat-nav instead. That's what he sounds. He sounds a bit like the Siri app on an iPhone having a stroke. And quite frankly, if the world deserves better, Britain sure as hell deserves a lot better.
Yeah, he's completely malfunctioning all the time. He's just so embarrassing. You're right. He is like that Siri app, I've got to say. Now, you mentioned Nigel Farage. Look, he seems to be doing exceptionally well over there. You can tell even from afar that the momentum is really, really with reform. But now we've got this new Ipsos poll revealing that more people are favourable to Nigel Farage than other UK political leaders. He is the only leader actually making gains, while Keir Starmer's popularity, no surprises, as you can see there, has dropped. Darren, how do you read this poll? What does it suggest?
Well, look, actually, I think the next election is tied up after you interviewed Nigel, Danica. That's in the bag now. I think, actually, what it suggests is what we've been saying in Britain for many years, many of us on the right of British politics, is that actually he's the only political figure in Britain who does genuinely connect with people. Boris Johnson had that, and then he gave it up on a mad dash for net zero and mass migration of a kind we've never seen in this country before. So whilst Keir Starmer, as we've just been saying, drones on like a sort of malfunctioning Roomba, and Kemi Badenoch is so backbench that frankly she's probably fallen off, Farage actually has cut through. He speaks plainly. He has a fag in hand and a pint in the other. He takes on the issues that voters actually care about. Immigration, and crucially not treating the public like idiots, arguing that net zero, as we heard today in Britain, net zero can reduce your bills when actually the opposite can be felt in all of our pockets. So I'm not surprised that Starmer's numbers are dropping like a hot potato, and that actually he's trying to copy Farage now at every twist and turn, with even some of his backbenchers accusing him of being too Farageist. Well, I think the political landscape is changing. It's full of grey-suited robots, and Nigel is a sort of rainbow of colour that lights up the room. So I can't wait. The Westminster establishment, they better watch out, because Farage, he's coming.
You know, it's so good to hear that about Farage, and I have to say I even noticed that Donald Trump gave him a really wonderful shout out at the CPAC conference on the world stage. It was quite a massive endorsement. But I just wonder, Darren, do you think that now that Donald Trump is in, people are going, okay, it's all right to look for leaders like this, and that's why Farage is gaining momentum in the UK? I mean, what's your take on that?
That's a really good bit of analysis, actually. I think you're probably right. I think in the way in which Donald Trump has managed to bring about some significant wins across cultural areas, but as well as economic ones, with a whole slew of companies making significant announcements of further investment in the United States, people are seeing that peace through strength is something that Donald Trump seems to be able to bring about, and we're seeing that with Ukraine and all the rest of it. But that power of and strength and determination for the nation state. People are crying out for that because we feel utterly powerless in our lives right now. Because the Labour Party seem far more intent about talking about Palestine than they do actually about talking about Preston in Britain. You know, this is the kind of, I think, a globalist approach that takes its eye firmly off the ball.
Yeah, and I feel like that's also happening in Australia too. It's so sad to see, but yeah, all the power to Nigel Farage. I just think he's just wonderful. Now, Darren, look out because Big Brother is watching. UK Labor is developing a secret artificial intelligence tool to troll through social media looking for, quote, concerning posts that it deems problematic so it can take action. Darren, for goodness sake, what's going on and why is Labor so dead set on controlling every aspect of its citizens' lives?
Oh, it's chilling. It is. It's absolutely chilling. They say that this is about keeping the public safe, but I don't think it is. I think it's about keeping the public silent because Labour have an obsession with controlling the narrative. And we saw a slew of people being jailed last year over riots when young girls were murdered in our country. This is Orwellian, and I know that's an overused trite cliche, but they really are not content with policing speech, that they actually seek to automate the process. And don't think for a second, right, that there are British citizens whose data is off limits, that they'll be safe. Actually, we saw with the back door that was built in our iPhones that Sir Keir Starmer's government insisted on, the lack of privacy and security, I think that's a deliberate attempt to be able to access data. And I don't trust this government to not try and use that data in really quite political and sinister ways. It's a form of digital Stasi, and it's actually coming to a timeline for everyone in the United Kingdom. And this, I just find this, all of these moves to be part of a wider trend. And I think if you can't see that now, then perhaps you never will. You know, that's where we're at in this country. Freedom and liberty are in deep, steep decline. It's a chilling time for freedom of expression in this country, because I don't think this is only exclusively about paedophiles and terrorists. I think this is actually about mischievous people that post online who the Labour Party don't like the narrative of.
No, I completely agree. And you're right. You know, this is a wake-up call that if people can't see what's going on now, they never will. But I hope people wake up to exactly what's going on because it is Big Brother-like qualities. It's just terrible. Now, Darren, let's change the pace a bit. I've got to talk to you about one of our favourite topics, Meghan Markle. Look, things are not going quite well for her. First, she rebranded her lifestyle brand to As Ever. I mean, spare us. She then faces legal action due to trademark issues over its logo, and now she's been accused of copying Hollywood icon Pamela Anderson after similarities were found between the trailer for Pamela's Cooking with Love venture and Meghan's With Love Meghan, both on streaming services, and it comes days after she was also accused of copying Princess Diana's look. Gee, Darren, drama seems to follow Meghan everywhere, but I've got to ask you, is she a cheap copycat? Is she simply clueless, or is she a smart businesswoman?
Oh, I don't think she's a smart businesswoman. In fact, I think every investment that anyone has ever given her, whether it be Spotify, Netflix, or whatever else, it hasn't worked out very well for them. You know, originality and Meghan Markle, they go together a bit like Prince Harry and some stream of independent thought. You know, you mentioned it there that she gives a lifestyle brand the most uninspired name imaginable, and it's after she was trying to flog this expensive jam with a name that sounds like a cheap perfume from a dollar store. You know, I just find that actually the unoriginality and the sales pitch, what was in this jam, Prince Harry's tears about his white guilt, I mean, give over. I've heard it all now. And now she's got as you say, lawyers breathing down her neck, Pamela Anderson maybe being pinched and having her ideas stolen with a perfectly curated kitchen and all these other things. And the idea that she's Princess Diana, well, I have to tell you this. Ask yourself, Is there anything original about Meghan Markle? I think there's one thing I can think of, and that's her ability to make absolutely everything about herself.
Oh, stunningly put. One quick question for you, Darren. Will you be buying Meghan Markle's jam?
I absolutely will not. I've got better things to spend my money on. I'll be spending it on, I don't know, a way of a VPN to try and get on the internet in the age of Sir Keir Starmer over buying her overpriced mush.
Oh, you've got much better priorities than Meghan Markle. Good to hear. Darren Grimes, it is always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you very much for joining me on the show this evening.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.